I seek refuge in God, the all-knowing of us, the accursed Satan. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and here we seek help. May peace and blessings be upon Muhammad and his good and pure family. May God's blessings be upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, and there is no time to watch. The talk was about the fourth path for my slumber of the existence of God. We have shown in previous studies the most important characteristics of this path, and we said that this path is considered, if not the most important, well-known path known in the East and West to prove the existence of God. There is no doubt that it is considered one of the most important paths known and famous, both modern and ancient, as a condition and in the West, for proving the existence of God. One of the most important characteristics of this path, we mentioned yesterday, is the convergence of scientific research with philosophical research. I am the premise of this evidence, and if the evidence is rational, then it is rational. Except for me, the introductions to the evidence, if the correctness that we wanted, you are a very vague word, meaning the smallness of the evidence, but it is what? Of research, science and natural sciences say, this is the system, this is the smallest evidence, or there is in this world systems, engineering, precision, and intelligent design, except for the night, and every system needs systems. This is the greatest evidence if scientific. Research and research are eliminated. It is only in this fourth path. From here we said that we need to know the position of science. Is it positive if it proves the existence of God, or is it negative? Is it helpful in proving the existence of God, or is it in the process of denying the existence of God in general? We said there are two positions. The first position is the negative position, as I am saying that science says. There is no system until you say it needs what a system. The second position is that science is due to the existence of systems, so we need a mature person, from an artist, from an engineer, to a less intelligent person, knowledgeable, capable, wise, benevolent, etc., to the end of the list of qualities. As for the negative attitude, it remembers the consolation. I mentioned yesterday to the model of the negative attitude and what is stated in the Book of God. The hypothesis is a failure, or the hypothesis is a failure. How does knowledge slumber, meaning natural knowledge, the non-existence of my existence? This is the first resource. Consolation. The second resource is the consolation of the one who is also in the negative position. The one who is most drawn from evil to him, which is Mike Martin's guiding book, the explanation of a penny in translation for any decimal dar on the page. Consolation on the page he named me 40. He says, the purpose of this book. The purpose of the book is to search well. The purpose of the book is to produce a penny. Excuse me, the purpose of the book is that this is for the purpose of covering. It was presented by the purpose of the book. At the morning of my age of 40, I will provide a comprehensive critique of the debates in my favor. The existence of God means all the evidence that has been established to slumber the existence of God. What I am doing here is to provide a comprehensive criticism and defense. They presented a defense of the arguments against the existence of God. I mean, the strongest evidence that forgets the existence of God and put in the evidence that you called this the existence of God. I will ask for the refutation. O God, this God says. Religions are the same words that we said in the hypothetical. The failed Levant says that the propaganda should be like this. Efforts have been limited to show us the lack of rationality in the belief in the existence of the Christian Hebrews. Islam has Sal. What if they put their hand on this yesterday? Here we show that he says and it is a being from him. This toward God they have a personalized being after they remember the playing. What we have previously explained is the perception that it is the casting of a person. What is meant by us are two persons who characterize it. I have problems with this that all knowers and destiny are completely good. And the one who created hearing and the earth, I did it for a clear reason, which is that the debates between our atheists and believers in our society mostly revolve around whether there exists you, if this is this existent, the all-knowing, the all-powerful, the good, the wise, etc. Except Aniat, my condolences on page 52. He says on page 52, I will provide an explanation for positive atheism. Do we have a negative atheism? To the answer yes, the atheist says negative. And the one who says there is no knowledge, there is no evidence for the existence of God. As for the positive atheist, what does he say? There is evidence for the non-existence of God. It is the theoretical belief in the non-existence of to wishes the non-existence of evidence for existence evidence of nothingness specific to the religious oh my God. To negate this to what do you say to a religion I will first examine what is contained in it like this and so on this is my condolences the negative position or the positive position that comes in the positive position my condolences of course I have a number in the positive position I don't want to give up on the details. Because perhaps we will, God Almighty willing, when we stop at it. In the same way, fourthly, we will refer to this wing of the wing. This wing, which now will be expressed as Namat Dil, or that is, what you want, will be said when we look at science in relation to belief in the existence of God. What did the Asbat indicate? Denial does not lead to certainty, but what? It is more likely, then in the position of the balance, the inferences indicate that they return to the evidence of the negation. This direction is the direction of God. Blame is natural, and knowledge is what not only produces and strengthens evidence, but reaches us to establish. What is the existence of God? This is all within the umbrella of the positive position. The first book, which yesterday we referred to, The Consolation of God, The Glory of the Art of the Family, The Guide to Naming the World and The Guide to Naming the World and The Guide to Naming in the Universe. Yesterday we pointed to the people. Come with us to page by page. Azai, in the introduction to the translator, says that there are two scientific trends, the first of which I am drawn to, which is the negative position of atheism. The second direction, Maulana, is the positive trend. Among those trends that can be benefited from is what is known as the intelligent design movement. That's why I wonder why they call intelligent design. There is some problem with this, so we can say that it may be expressed by the proof of systems, and it may be expressed by the proof of mastery, but here it is known that it is expressed in the West. This is what he says: the history of this weapon in the late 80s of the last century, meaning it is not an old term, and it is a movement behind which a group of natural scientists in various fields of knowledge stand. Ignoring the nature of this designer in his words, natural science is able to reveal the existence of mastered craftsmanship, which calls for the quality of a designer. Science must eclipse the quality of masterful craftsmanship, and the mind says it needs what? To a designer of skilled, wise, and knowledgeable people. As for what is built on such visionary and philosophical discoveries, it requires two works, yes. Minorities still do not come to mind. What have they researched? Philosophy. Scientific research is based on necessary and theoretical rationales, combined with the observation of sense and experience. If one wants to mention the three most important personalities behind this trend, he will mention the three names based on the binding of this book. Therefore, they are among the eminent figures of the revolution. Ignorance is positive in science, and it needs an intelligent designer. The merit of this book, which has clogged the defenseless, has exceeded 220 pages of research. The central advantage of this book is that it presents a summary of the vision of each one of those three, because each one of them is the beginning of two firsts when you have written multiple books in this field, meaning that you do not need 5 books, you need 10 books. A simple summary is present here in this book, which has been explained in extensive books by the children of the three. Mike Albeha is the author of the famous central book Darwin's Black Box, the book The Edge of Evolution, and Step What He Likes, the author of the book The Signature in the Elephant, God's Sight, and the book Shako Kataron. As for William, they have many scrolls, on top of which is evidence of what, design evidence, call this book wells of 3 or research papers. They are a research paper for the first, a research paper for the Sunni, a research paper for what? They are for Thali Sam. Come with us. My condolences. On the page of Sabata Esh from the book, Akav's statement conveys that the security of my condolences is conveyed by the well-known contemporary atheist, Richard Dogen Smolin, who says, Al-Tafjizan. This means that even this says, beware of you and you fall into delusion when you look at the world as if it were designed. I mean, he can exhaust the designation with it, but he cannot, but he tries to find for it, in our formulaic, interpretive, and theoretical expression, says the speaker, the leader of the Darwinists and their spokesman. Biology is the study of complex things that appear to be designed to please us. I mean, if you look at them directly, you can tell that this is what is designed, elaborately, carefully, and to inspire us. This is what we said yesterday in parts, and the purpose is the goal that is hesitant about it. Come with us to the page of the most valuable task of our Lord. He actually says the opposite, nor do the evolutionists assert it, nor do the theorists of the idea of design, in the presence of sufficient scientific evidence that indicates the vision of intelligent design, and that this intelligent design is observable. What is it experimentally, and this can only be done by the law of induction, nor the theory of probability of our Shahi professor, meaning the theory of approximation in general. Al-Istidai Shahi presented it precisely in his book Logical Exponentials. Then come, my condolences, on page 20, if physical evidence from nature can be used to support belief in God, then they say, if I find a multiplicative explanation, this is a reference to the other wing. Sorry, I said that this scientific defect can be explained other than the explanation supported by the claims of our existence. The evidence cannot be provided with any certain proofs of the existence of God, but it can be based on some interpretations. This is one of the paths that, God willing, we will point out to you because it is another division of the paths to prove the existence of God. The path left me or led you to the certainty of the existence of God, and the other path makes it more likely for you that the existence of what? Genu. The existence of God, and thirdly, the evidence is equivalent to what with the brothers, and fourth, the evidence is more likely than not, meaning that 30% is more indicative of the existence of God, more evidence to deny the existence of what, and 2%. I give you doubt in that case. What should we do? Should we lead our lives according to the most likely evidence, or should we lead our lives according to the most likely evidence, and then my condolences on page 27 say, and the bottom line is that contemporary experimental science allows for making a principled distinction between Brora and coincidences, and God, how much does he say to me, what does he say? So, he says, modern experimental science goes in both directions. Either the thing was found with two reasons, which is a coincidence paradise, or it was found with two necessary causes. I mean, there was a choice or not, there was a choice. There was no choice. There was no choice. It does not find a choice. So if you say to him a choice that is in harmony with naturalness and is not in harmony, and from here, the first thing is through the designer so that he will be rewarded with the justice of choice. Just and wise, determined, knowledgeable, capable, and intelligent, and this is one of the problems of the speakers of philosophy, because the philosophers said that something that was not due did not exist. They said, if the possibility of the solibulum comes into being, then it becomes clear. These people, turning to this joke, say that contemporary experimental science allows for making a principled distinction between necessity and coincidence, but this experimental science excludes the pattern. Design means that it is optional, neither coincidence, nor blind natural appearance of places as a possible explanation. For natural phenomena, if we separate, there will be one completeness, one that denies causality, one that silences causality, and the one who insists on causality only says natural causality or causality. What? Selected world to the non-submissive to the groans of my incapacity. In the page of my name 20 says calm down. If it is repurposing the model, the design was an acceptable model for scientific explanation, meaning we give a third way to the agent and creator, not to the coincidences that denied causality, nor to what is the cause of those who denied choice without a third explanation, but what is it? What are the chosen ones here? My condolences, they might pose a problem. The problem of initiation, because these initiations occurred if the cause was natural and outside of choice. We say it is necessary, O God, this is a benefit, just as marriage is necessary for the four I have led. But if you say, what is this by choice, then how can he be wise, good, perfect, knowledgeable, and capable, and yet he chooses what is the project? What are the means for solving it? A problem that is still intensifying on the theory of design. Why is this optional? This is a resource here. Consolation. The second resource is consolation, which is God and modern physics. God and modern physics in the positive position and modern physics. Paul de Viz, I can't help but share, and I remember that in the past I referred to this man, my son, Viz. Dear my son Viz, this is his translation of a summary of the book The Journey of the Mind of the One Who is Lam Rushrif, page 90. My condolences say that my son Viz is a brilliant scientist, and was born in the year 1946. He is a professor of physics at the American University of Arizona, and before that he worked as a professor at Cambridge University in London. He received the Templeton Prize in 1575 and a member of Hazal. I turned around, this is a prize that will enthrall you, where will you be fascinated by the mission? He says, we have a Nobel Prize, and we have a prize that will be presented by the Tanbalat Foundation in the United States since 1973. It is presented for scientific research and discoveries that serve the religious and spiritual aspects. He says, Sayeb means the spiritual, moral, religious, and philosophical dimensions of the sciences. He says, the foundations of this institution are specialized in this, and in this way it is distinguished from the Nobel Foundation. He says, after that its presenters noted that Najah, if the Atif fur, is a fur full of these sides, and its value is 1, and the $10 million will be printed. If the 61 fur is printed with $10 million, meaning 2 million dead, $1,000, this is $1 million and $1,000, and it is one of the prizes. This is the man whose owner is like this. He came, if it is impudent, he will be aware of his scientific standing and his position. What is the link between scientific research and scientific research? Good natural research. Learn with us. Ezai. Both of his books are translated by Hala. There is Ezai on page 8, and he says he deals with the book on the main topic, what I call the 4 great questions about existence, laws of nature. Why is the universe composed of the things of which it is composed and not of other things? How did these things arise? 4. How did Kuhn achieve order and achieve what? The Unseen says, near the pages of this book appear certain answers to the questions. The answers depend on an understanding of nature's parallels. However, I believe that physics, by exception, can provide us with answers. Perhaps it may seem strange to many. This is what I want to say, but I see the world teaching physics, nature, offering a sure path towards it, whether it is right or wrong. I always speak in the form of proof, not in the form of perhaps this, but its evidence reaches us that this science says God, what exists. The fact remains that science is already advancing into an area that was previously a significant issue, and that they can address the issue seriously, until the coming of the Almighty. You remember that we mentioned above on page 267, which the follower Zia concludes there, saying in a clear and frank manner. In the previous chapters, in our search for all, we dealt with all that it is modern physics, new ideas about space, and that the system that is not the system of the mind, the duration, that much of what we put forward, until he says, I began by putting forward the claim that science provides the path is certain to strive for mastery, more than religion, myself. I mean, even from the religious and mental evidence observed, this resource is our responsibility. The second is a consolation. Of course, he says, in your knowledge. Professor Haken, author of the book Design is a Crime. The Great One also said this word. But before he raised his hand in his book, what? The history of the creation of time. There is also a consolation on page 100. There is two swords. This is our Lord in a brief history of time. We also refer to this point on page 48. He says that we find ourselves in the world of the bewildered, and we want to make what we see around us something as if we make what is felt a reasonable name. This is what is important. My condolences to the things that are felt. Other animals do not feel them. Rather, they hear more than what they hear and see more than what they see and are more accurate than what they see. Doesn't that make it what? What? A mind, and does not make it a human being. When is a human being transformed into what is perceived and sensed by natural science? To reasonable means to search for. Geez, there is no way to perform it, some of it is what I know. This is what research says, reason and philosophy, and do not be distracted by 1,000 seminaries. There is no way to reach God except through research. The mind, this is not possible. This is a sector of the world. This is not the case. This is the case. This is the right thing to do. This is what Mobiles says. These natural scientists in different directions say, these are the dogs of interpretation. Read the phrase. He says that we find ourselves in a confusing world, and we want to make of what we see around us. I mean, we make of what is felt around us something reasonable, and we ask him what it is. He asked what is the nature of the pile, what is our place in it, and what kind of place is it in us, and why is there a sin in it? These laws have this geometry, not with all its geometry. Should I ask the four people to lock the Taoism of Ashar? What? To it is this kind of thing that bewilders, and it is not possible for a human being unless he loses his mind, or even a human being if he is a human. These questions are announced, the flow of water, and the flow of my proposition, or they subtract from themselves, forcing a mind to ask them, declared, saying, and until we try to answer these questions, we take the image of what is in the world, trying to deny what. This world and the laws of the creation of this world, after that comes my consolation, they say, for every explanation, and until now, most of the scientists have been busy creating new theories that describe what the universe is, meaning the sciences are natural. You have described saying this law, here is this law, we will talk about physics, this is in chemistry, this is in geology, this is in the environment, this is in humans, this is in astronomy. It is effective, but why did it become like this? And there was no one after science. He can answer it, and he cannot say this is the function of science to prepare the obvious, this precise distinction, while it is scientific, and while it is, the Safi said, and until now, most scientists have been busy creating new theories that describe what the universe is, so that they have not asked why it is in this form in this way. I mean, they didn't ask how. But they asked about what? Talk about the existing laws. The other side of it promised philosophy. What did they do? They said, why is this not the case? That's what my name says, and on all of that, no, and we discovered a good shoulder. This issue is full of human work, and it is full of work, which is that is it possible to explain all the laws of natural sciences with your laws? 1. Except now, we are continuing, except that all the natural, physical, mathematical, and scientific sciences can be explained by 4 laws, but are they based on the meaning of the earth on which they can find a jinn for it? A non-FAQ, one that includes a jinn like this? You want, you will find, such as the intelligible and the truthful, such as every ruler who disparages, and for this reason you will build it. Everyone who says, if, then, no, and we have discovered a complete theoretical verb, for it should, with the passage of time, be able to be understood. So, he says, we will be able to contribute to the discussion of the question about the reason for we and the universe exist, and we find the answer. So if you find this reason, what's happening? What's going on? Says text through it, we can reach the Almighty Creator, so this will be the final victory of the human mind, because then we will know what. Here comes the phrase, the translator, meaning what the translator is translating the creative idea. I imagine, no, it began to be here. The idea is the first idea to cast with my own hands to say, as evidenced by the fact that in the book of the strongest proofs of Dr. Joel Links in debunking the fallacies of deniers, he was condemned on page 520, like this, he says, you reveal camera theories. Of course, in the book A Brief History of Time, it is the greatest victory for the least human, because it is then known to you that I reduce the meaning of reasoning to G. This is the equivalent of the second resource. Of course, I told you Hawken in this book of his says, we obey victory. But in his book, O Great Design, what did he say? It became a number of problems. What is the problem? This is the creator of his creation. And this, God willing, in his time, we will make it clear. His book, The Silence of Knowledge, The Existence of God, Enhanced Knowledge, The Existence of God, Did Knowledge Kill Faithfulness in the Presence of God, Dr. Mao, the introduction of the Arabic edition and the translation, as well, there on page 4 and 20, he says the central question in this book is the question that raises Yohara's mind with life's philosophy or perspective with the perspective that is most compatible with pain. This comes from Jahi Jana A. Mighty is the path that leads to certainty. If the path that returns is full of this is the most likely perspective, this is the perspective most compatible with pain, trust in God, the Creator, the Preserver. As for the unity, did the knowledgeable people bury it? God, let us see where the evidence will lead us. What? The evidence of Al-Alamein, of course, the summary of the book, Our Lord. This, Our Lord, is the summary of the book. In conclusion, in Safa 3460, in conclusion, he stated that the Al-Alamein did not kill faith in God, quite the opposite. The emergence of the Most High of knowledge indicates his existence. Rather, the project of the Al-Alamein itself does not exist except with its presence, meaning with the presence of it. Why? Why can science only exist in the presence of God? What do we want from science to achieve? What? To him. This says that knowledge cannot be achieved unless you believe in the previous rank, God. What? How do we combine it? What are these two people who turn around? He does not say once that scientific evidence leads to God, and once he says that science can only be established by God. How can it be effective that this answer is that they were all created? Did they understand you? You abandon scientific research and do not know that God exists or does not exist in terms of his standing in the place of evidence, nor in reality the validity of his existence, but you know and do not know and do not know, so through the natural sciences have they established that God is here? Existent means that if it did not exist, it would be objectionable to the natural sciences. Therefore, before entering into the evidence, God does not establish them before the sciences after evaluating the evidence. He deduces that this science does not support all of that. Why? Why? Jamal Azila was wrong when I entered. I was astonished that in determining the evidence is good. You are when you enter into the external reality, into science, and into the sciences to discover the laws. If this is not the appearance of nature, it is governed by laws that do not change, do not begin, and do not purify. The sources of increase can discover their laws, but they cannot. Madat can discover their laws if they have laws. Otherwise, if sometimes the evil raises thirst and sometimes the bright, what does thirst not do? Once it burns, fire burns, and sometimes fire is paradise. Once upon a time, it does not burn. Attractiveness. Because of gravity, does science exist for us on its foundation? It will not be established after what it will establish on its foundation if there are governing laws. Otherwise, when you find that they send alphabetical ships out to 100 million kilometers, if there are no laws, then in astronomy they are stagnate and do not change 1/1,000,000th of a second. Otherwise, they could have sent these alphabetical rows, but they could not. There is no place. If they say, then they will see that knowledge cannot be achieved except by the existence of what is the existence of the observer of this world. What does the phrase indicate? He does not say we have evidence. We have come to this conclusion and statement that knowledge does not kill faith in God, but rather by the opposite, so the end of the one who points to his existence has come, which means insanity, meaning the belief in his existence is later than the evidence. Now it is progressing. Indeed, the evidence is later than the existence. What about the existence? Rather, the faithful project itself does not exist except what God does with the existence of God. Give an example that is closest to condom oil. Leave your religion alone. Now you find it here heat. Egypt does not know heat. So you want that from the heat to reach what to insults Ha. Then you discover that this heat is from something he caused. Whoever desires it is fire. It is the fire after before the evidence and before the evidence before entering after the evidence after establishing the evidence. It is much better to ash a fire before the heat, not after the heat. Say, I mean, whoever studies the law, then why? The best, clear, grappling like this is his concern, the book Al-Ajah, the fourth book, Asa al-Jaz al-Kanaya al-Kabramula, also by Faul de Bes. I would like that this book is as much as the glory can. They get it and they say. On the sites and they get it. Come with us to this book. The Asa al-Kanaya al-Kubra. My condolences on a page that says from my most important to the evidence for my proof that Nazim is the one who needs what is gone. Nazim is to ask this question. The question of the one who presses the button if the world in it is not the one who is Ali. What would be the state of the world? I mean, if the sun were farther away from the first earth, such, or what it is in fact, on this side, or so, what would be the consequences of that? Subtract the penis with the opposite. Precipitations of what? What are its laws? No, all. If this law had not been, who would have happened? This is closer than the path. What are you? Study of the laws. Philosophers call this type of thinking the name of counterfactual analysis. Theory of what? The theory of the analysis that opposes the tragedy. I will ask that I lost the closest muscle of the phrases because it occurred, and as Talib a Kuf, the book was restricting your readings, oh because it is complete, that an ear shouts at them all. It is full of all the phrases that are useful in their occurrence. How did I become ill with existence, for example, Tafsil Asha, how could I become ill with existence? How do you check the presence of cattle? In particular, Carter's calculations, one of the specialists, suggested that if the laws were only slightly different, according to what he already understood, it would have become impossible for life to exist. First of all, even if they were slightly different, are the laws different and the law is not subject to observation? Because when can you observe it, and if it is not in the laws, can you still say that water boils at a temperature yet you can and cannot? When can you establish a law if these laws do not differ or regress, if the year that does not appear to be the first will change and not be challenged? He said, in Carter's opinion, the laws seemed appropriate exactly for the life, as if this is something intentional in itself, meaning it is designed with two precise poisons. Come with us, Fashmad ki Gazai. Come with us to the page of Athmatash from the book. As I in the introduction only Ajijahi. In the introduction only Ajijahi says on the page of the most precious Ta'ash and the universe are adapted to life. This is a difference. If you remember, there are 4 different parts. The parts are elaborate and they lead to an elaborate purpose. These are all just enough to prove this joke. The old man's screwdriver is perfect, but it also serves a perfect purpose. These laws are so strict that the fact that the universe is a feeder for life seems as if it is planned or intended. If we use the strong description, the world of Albericani universes, except for this, science has come to be. And science says in the form of finding the puzzle, you do not have life in this amazing way. But this explanation requires an understanding of how the universe began, the development of the universe, knowledge of the matter from which the universe is composed, and so on. Then he says the code that solves all of this for us, which is the existence of a hidden truth behind this wonder, and behind these laws, come with us. My condolences to page 22, my condolences from the laws. The existence of the laws of nature is the starting point from which this matter begins until we arrive at the results. What do we make of the mental thing? In Heekin's words, what? It is reasonable to wrap up the truth. It is the starting point for pain itself. If you do not believe that natural phenomena have laws, you can begin researching, but you cannot. You can begin researching it, and ending it with skills that have laws. Otherwise, if by chance you believe that there is still a difference, you can research it, but you cannot. This is why he says that the existence of the laws of nature is the starting point from which this book originates. In fact, the starting point is for the 2 scholars in C. Doesn't it change or change? Why do these laws take the form they have and not in another form and do not change? Billions of streams do not change because they say, I do not know how many billion binary systems there are. There is no star, no planet, no galaxy Rus, there is no system, there is another. If the laws are not fixed, then you can impose them by saying, you cannot create a motive. Why do they change the form they are in, and how do they come into use in other than light? The idea of management cannot be explained. How can you explain it in other than what the theory of thinking is? It's time for management until you follow this hypothesis. You cannot, in this world, say this according to all my laws. If you can do it, then its degree and value will be more rewarding than 5 years of birth. Years of pain. 10 in my money. 7 Talat Ashram Bami. You will feel pain. There remains someone who can explain everything to us. All this moaning and groaning is only possible. What? Except those who manage and help. 1 Because this was pointy. Ren had what? What's wrong with him? You fight because this person is planning something like this, and this person is planning what? In the same way, if there is in it what God has suggested, this is evidence of monotheism, this is evidence called asba, the existence of God. There is no corruption that does not lead you, to me, this is yet in the place of semen who believes in her religion. Mata. Say this to the atheists. We have signed that. Not at the top of your consciousness, and where to return is hiding from us. I do not say to that of the Mata. He says, if only we would change this, do not dedicate to it. How is this seen? Follow that. Mata is a messenger. Well done to him. If he is a messenger, then there will be an end to it. And if it follows that his messenger, where is his presence? Where is he? Where is his excuse? They did not know this. Is not my condolences, of course. This speech was in the morning of this 27th, and they lasted after my condolences, with the apology, we appeared on the determination for us in the morning of the 27th, saying, the reasoning is good. There are laws. Hundreds of thousands. Millions of laws in every part. Thousands of questions. They are independent, some or the other, or they complement each other. Which one of them? This is the man of the world. He says it. He says them to us. One of them says that not all laws are independent from one another. Rather, it is his paradise, which burdened everything that he created. He called the guide of his creation. That the system of internal transmission is a guidance. What? The outside to be from Sajman. What? What? With all the laws of this region until the earth becomes permissible for life, and why is the earth good and not anything else? As an obligation, he says, after he began a little bit, he says, during the 4 centuries that followed the discovery of the first laws of physics, more and more laws of light appeared, and more mountains were discovered that improved these laws. The laws of electricity, for example, these mutual relationships between the laws led to a certain amount of confusion regarding which laws are superseded and which are derived from the other. From here, the naturalists propose that these laws are all original and independent, if some of them are original and some of them are subsidiary, and from here they begin to postpone each other until what is the possibility here that we return all the laws to one law? If we discover that, as Haken says, as a mind that obeys the nose, we obey in the expression that the two meanings, the understanding, are less to the understanding, what, and that it is one, from which only one issues. This is why some say the law of the one who sits. Philosophical oneness, from which only one emanates, which means that there is one entity to him, what is created, oneness, not willed, and in everything there is a sign indicating that it is one. You want to find in everything the fingerprints of that oneness. What? Did you grow? That's why we read, Maulana, one of the predecessors, said, the imprint of what? The imprint of the creation, let us all wonder. When Okul comes to us and makes something, what is written underneath it? Are they? Does growth write? What is the name of our master? Cities. Is there a city or a country, and if you plan, what makes a plan? They make a plan for me with his mark. This is what God Almighty expects. If this is proven, he says, his mark is a ruler in all things. We will enlighten them with our signs in their dreams and in their souls. Will you not see a woman in distress until she needs guidance, because what is his fingerprint? It is present in every Mecca, and if you do not see the fingerprint, then the problem is, where is the blind eye that does not see you on its watch? His sermon was completed by Alabar. Is it a spectrum? He says that these mutual relationships lead to a certain amount of interconnectedness, regarding prevention, regarding which laws are fundamental and which are derived from others. He says physicists began to talk about essential laws and laws, what are dual until he reaches what is a single and none, the ruler of all the laws of paradise. It applies to all the laws of Kant, and this is why on the page of 8 and Adrin he says that the process of simplifying and rearranging, he says, there is a single superior anon from which all other laws are derived. This is why, God willing, in the next research, we will bring to you some books that claim to have discovered the essence of this law. Deciphering the code of the universe, this calm, with the essence of a single cipher. If we are able to discover it with Hokkai's expression, with Einstein's expression, with others' expressions, if we arrive at what? We can discover all the laws of this world, so we can understand how this world is managed, so we leave the natural and philosophical research and enter into the religious research. This scythe is promised. Whoever comes will know this law or not, and if he learns this law, he will obey. What will he do? What will he do? What will he do? MIDI for human. This whole universe is what? He can manage and control his righteousness, and the praise that we deprive his servants of is his righteousness.